For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mitch Maki. I'm president and CEO of Go for Broke National Education Center, and I'm just delighted to be here today. And I'd like to invite the members of this, the cast and the crew that are here with us today to come join me upstage. So we have Kerwin Berk, Ben Arikawa, Ryan Takemiya, Anna Sun, and Kealoha Nakamura, and I will introduce them as they come down. Here comes Ben. Okay, great, fantastic. And just to be clear on who's who, to my direct left, of course, is Anna Sun. The writer and director is Kerwin Berk. The director of photography, Ben Arikawa. And the actor who played Ken is Ryan Takemiya. Jimmy. And then the local boy from Hawaii, Kealoha Nakamura. So let me just say that I've watched this film now about 10 times, and each time I see something different, and each time it touches me in a different way. And so Kerwin, to you for producing it, for writing it, thank you. I think it's quite a production. And before we get into the questions and answers, I also want to say to Ryan and Anna, I love that scene when you guys are on the steps and you see the whole courtship happening in a matter of minutes, you know, going from almost hitting him over the head with a baseball bat to falling in love. And that look you give him at the end, Anna, like you're gonna take over his life, and the look that you give him, Ryan, you know, all the men in the audience know that look. It's like, yeah, she's taking over my life. Okay, but I love it. You guys did a great job. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions, but certainly if any of you have any questions, I understand that the phone number is gonna be put up on the screen here to text the question. But let's start with you, Kerwin. Why? Why did you put this film together? What does this film mean to you?
Is this on?
Yeah, that's straight. I'll figure it out.
Oh.
This one's on.
Oh, it's okay to take the mask off, right? For this? Okay. This is actually a short film, and it's part of a much larger feature film that we want to make someday. If you notice at the very end, the guy who plays old Jimmy is Hiroshi Kashiwagi, and he was sort of the impetus for the film. We'd been working on a play, and we weren't able to make it work, and he wondered if we could ever make another film again. So we cut this section out of the larger film and then produced it and shot it. So Hiroshi was sort of he was sort of the beginning of that. Hiroshi passed away in November of 2019. So we screened it in San Francisco, I think in September of 2019. He passed away a couple months later. So
Age of 98? It was 97 or something like that?
90,
97 or
something
98.
like that. Yeah, he was 93 when we filmed this, so 94.
And how did you go about picking this cast?
Well, Anna was actually the first person besides Hiroshi that we cast. I've worked with Anna a number of times, and she's just a really wonderful actress. So, you know, we kind of had her in to read, but we kind of knew she had the part anyway. And yeah, she was great. And then we cast Ryan, who was apparently the only Japanese-American actor in the Bay Area. I mean, literally, there were no other men, so we were forced to use him. And then Kealoha, we found, Kealani found Kealoha somewhere. I think he was playing a musical instrument for change on the street or something. And, so we brought him aboard. And then Ben, I've been working with Ben pretty much on all our films, so he's retired and has nothing better to do, so he's good enough to shoot them.
So what this means is you too can be in the film. Just show up at Kerwin's door.
Seriously, man.
Right.
Show up in 1940s clothes, we'll use you.
Right. So Ben, you've been working with Kerwin for quite a while. What did it mean for you to produce or help shoot, in your case, this movie?
Well, as Kerwin says, or said, one of the things, I am retired, and I needed something to do. So this provides me that thing to do besides get angry at the TV news. So for my mental health, this is good. What it means to me, I think I like stories. So the purpose for me, whether this is a war story, a love story, or it's really a story about, in the end, passing on traditions, I think it's the story that I'm looking at. For much of what I do with Kerwin, there isn't a lot of preparation. So I'll show up. He said, "Yeah, we're filming this weekend. We're going to go to Pollock Pines and do the war scenes." And I think, okay. And I don't know what the script is. I vaguely know that we're going to stay somewhere in Pollock Pines.
In all fairness, I send him the script. He doesn't read.
Okay, so maybe I don't read the script. But so I just show up and get to do things like stand in the rain for 4 hours, and I'm actually not retired then.
Gives you something to do then. If anyone has a question in the audience, please go ahead and text it and it will come to me and I'll be happy to ask it. So Anna, since you are the longest cast member in the crew here, and I must say that, as I mentioned to you, we met backstage for a moment. I said I fell in love with your character in the film and thought you did a fabulous job. And then, as I was seeing the credits, I saw that you are Korean by ethnicity. And what does that all mean to you as this story came together and as you were asked to play this Nisei woman? And what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think my only interactions or exposure to Japanese American community was the friends that I had made in high school. I grew up in Cupertino, and then they were all sixth generation, and so whatever traditions they had upheld, we had celebrated together. But I also had to do a lot of prep work. I definitely listened to stories from our own cast members and their families. Like, I think rolling the credits made me tear up even more just because how real all of their stories were and how personal it was. And a lot of these stories we didn't learn in history, so I had to do more digging. Meeting with, Kerwin definitely helped expose me to a lot more of the cast members and their stories. And then for me, the way I got connected with my character was, I think, feeling so other, even though we were all born here, even though we are Americans, but still feeling like a guest in this country a lot of times and asking for permission a lot of times, which in some ways our parents instilled in us, for their own survival, probably methods. But I think it wasn't that hard to connect with the story of family, of feeling other, of all of that. But the very real stories of the internment camps, oh my gosh, it was hard to process, but also really helpful in connecting. So, did that answer?
Yeah, and the reason why I asked the question the way I did is, and you answered it so beautifully, is that the appeal of the story is the universality of the story, that we all can see ourselves in it in different ways. So Ryan, let's go to you. And you and I had a chance to talk in a previous panel, and again, I loved your performance and
Thank
so
you.
forth. Two questions, and one of them comes from the audience. Did you really carry Ken in that scene the way you did? Because man, you looked like you were handling that.
Did it look real?
It looked real, yeah.
Because it was real.
All right.
I must have carried Ken at least 30 times in at least. No, it was, I was counting. And it was over 24 times because there was that many takes and I was not just, so there was actually 2 different scenes where I carry him. There's one where I carry him kind of up a ravine, and then there's one where I carry him and then put him down. So both of those times required multiple takes where it was a workout. It was great work. But, and it's funny because they were also telling me like, oh yeah, Jimmy's got an injury on his leg, on his left leg. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy because I actually broke my left leg a number of years ago. So I was like, oh, that'll be easy to channel. But yes, I did pick up Ken. Thank God he's a shorter man. Yes.
What generation are you? And growing up, did you know much about this story, the story of the 100th 442nd, and what did that story mean to you?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm 4th generation. I'm Yonsei, half Japanese, half Chinese, actually, born and raised in the Bay Area. But so the Japanese side of my family is all from here, from Los Angeles, San Pedro, actually. And my dad had an uncle whose name is on the monument that sits only about 100 feet away from us, who served in the 442nd. So I had heard about it, and I know that even though in school they didn't teach us much about it, but I had gone out of my way to try and learn as much as I could about it on my own. I had attended the pilgrimage to Tule Lake. I had watched any and all of the documentaries that I could get my hands on and read a lot of the books. So I was very familiar with the story when I heard about this project. And that's one of the reasons why I was very excited to try and, to throw my hat in the ring to participate. I was really, really excited. I mean, it was a dream come true, really, to sort of, to play such a role and to, I think, sort of try to honor that generation of my own family. And it was really, it was so meaningful to not just play a character. Usually, a lot of times as an actor, you're asked to play a character that you don't have really much in common with. But this was the complete opposite of that. It was like, there are people in my family who I can actually draw inspiration from. Like when I was a kid, I had granduncles who were around, who were Nisei, and I remember them. I remember what they were like. I remember they were, they were real people, and so I really loved the fact that I could draw upon that and then add my own personal, style to it, and just tell this story and live this story. It was really, it's probably not to blow too much smoke, but this is probably one of the most meaningful film projects I've been a part of in my career.
Yeah, and I can hear that in your voice that, as Anna was talking about, there's a universal character to the film, but for Japanese Americans, there's a very personal and very deep connection with this film because it is about our heroes that are from our community, and it's about our own family members. So, I thought you did a fantastic job.
I don't like to give Kerwin too much credit for creating.
Oh, we're not talking about
awesome.
Kerwin. We're talking about you. All right.
But no, I mean, thank you. I just want to say thank you, Kerwin, for creating this project. It was really, really it was 30 times.
Now let's go to the local boy who's not a local boy, as I found out the last time we talked. But Kealoha, how did you come to this this project, and what did it mean to you?
It's funny. I got a message from the executive producer, Keilani, and she said, "Hey, you're Japanese. Are you interested in being a part of this project?" And I was like, "Yes. Yes, I would." I was very excited. I didn't even know what it was about. She just said 442, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, definitely." It means a lot to me because my grandfather fought in the war, and he was part of that 442nd. And I remember as a kid, I would just sit down and ask him about it, and he told me all these stories. My family and I would drive up to the museum, actually, and we learned a lot about the history. We were one of those families, actually, that got land taken from us, and family moved to the internment camps. So it was very near and dear to my heart to be part of something and get to kind of play this character that was my grandfather, because he was born and raised in Hawaii. So I was very excited, and it means a lot to me.
Well, my phone is blowing up with all kinds of questions, and you answered one of them, which is, who did you draw on for inspiration? So thank you for that. Kerwin, one of the questions is, are you going to enter it into film festivals? And if we can also expound on that, what's your plan for the next step?
Yeah, good question. So we missed the entire 2020 film festival cycle, obviously, and we're just kind of now, this is actually our first screening out of the pandemic. So thank you, Joy, by the way, and Janum for having us, and Shay for running the AV up there. And we're on YouTube, right?
We will be.
Okay, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but thank you. Yeah, so we want to make the feature film. We're not really sure. We're not really sure. Yeah, we basically need money. So if you have a bunch of money, if you're a dentist and you have a lot of money, dentists apparently really rich and boring, and they give you a lot of money. That's Ben's theory. Yeah, but we'd like to make the feature film, and we've done some pre-production on it. The script is ready. It's just sort of getting back into the swing of it, because I was literally sitting around for a year getting fat. So, yeah, I didn't answer that very well. I'm sorry. Yeah. Kind of.
All right. Well, Anna, the next question comes to you, and many people in the audience are familiar with Chizu Omori, who played Bachan in that, and very near and dear to our hearts. The question is, what did you learn from her? What did you pull from her experience?
I think at the time when she was sharing, and we had lunch and we were talking about it, and I came away thinking she just shared as if that was a very matter of fact. It wasn't, yes, there are emotions involved, but she just claimed it as her story. And there were just so many things that I was just surprised that she had lived through, but to her, it was just everyday things that had happened in her life and to everyone else around her. And she had so much humor around it, which I guess I don't expect from folks who have endured something like that, but she's very sweet, very humorous. So yeah, that was really a treat to sit with her. Yeah.
Yeah, so we spent a really nice afternoon with Chizu, and Chizu's about 4'10", and she weighs about 90 pounds, and she eats like Ryan. But so I was trying to kind of give Anna introduce her to a sort of a Nisei woman, and we all sort of built this kind of, Ryan touched upon it, we've sort of built this, to digest our history, we sort of made this story, and the Nisei woman we kind of picture a certain way, and Chizu is like anything but that way. She's like really outspoken. She's really hysterical. She was not sort of the average Nisei woman, so it was kind of a really interesting learning process, both for Anna and myself. I've known Chizu for 40 years, but she was telling these great stories from camp about, she's a teenager, and like, the boys and the girls would go down by the river and make out, and you're kind of like, okay, I didn't read that anywhere. I didn't see that in a documentary. And then that sort of dovetails with what Ryan said about, when we're growing up and we're Sansei, we picture the Nisei at a certain age. When you're Yonsei, you see them older, and when you're Gosei, you even see them older than that. And we forget that they were 20 years old. And it's just like, the biggest thing I had to do when I was 20 was to figure out what class I was going to take in college. And here they are faced with these, massive decisions, like the world is just turned upside down. And we forget that, they were 20 years old and they were having to deal with it. And I think Ryan and Anna were just nailed the performances.
Yeah.
So.
You know, one question that we have for all of you, because you all brought something different to the table and a different background. With this film, what are you hoping that non-Asian Americans, or just people, Americans who aren't familiar with the story, what do you want them to take away?
I want them to recognize that even though we do come from a different heritage, we're immigrants, our parents or grandparents were immigrants, that we are American, we do love this country, and we want to be unified together. Like, that was the whole goal for the 442nd. They wanted to prove, like, hey, we're just as American as you guys, and we're in this together.
Yeah, I would agree with that, absolutely. And I would also say I would want people to take away the same thing as with any story and any film is the humanity of it, right? Just the humanness of these people and the decisions that they have to make and the feelings that they're feeling. And I would want people to look at the situation and think about how they might actually have reacted in that same situation, how they might have actually, what they would have done in that situation, or put themselves into the shoes of the people in the movie. That's all.
So the Americanness of the film, the humanity of the film. Ben?
So these two said just about everything I would say, or I would have said if I had thought of it first. But so I think one of the things non-Japanese Americans who watch the film, or even Japanese Americans who don't really know what happened, is that that we're all Americans. We're all here in America, or we're here in America, trying to be an American, and then whatever that means. So for my aunt and her family who were in camp, they had a very different experience than Chizu had. But I guess I won't go into that. It's a little bit longer. But they all had many of them had different experiences. Chizu's experience was, she was growing up, she was very, I think, might have been a little angry there. And in terms of my family, the people in my family, they might have been angry, but some of them were very happy to be in camp, which is really something you don't hear very often. Mainly because, my aunt had a farm, and every day there was something to do. Every day was another struggle. And she had to worry about, well, she owned the land because my uncle, her husband, was not an American citizen. He couldn't own land in California. So she owned the land, and she was the one with the bank account. So much of the responsibility sort of, in the end, fell to her because she was the American citizen. And she even said once, well, the time in camp, the 4 years in camp, they were like the best time she had. Because she didn't have to take care of the farm, she didn't have to worry about who was going to get fed tomorrow. And my father said something similar because he was a migrant farm worker. He went, when the war broke out, I think he was in San Luis Obispo County. And he was a migrant farm worker, lived in probably a shack with 30 or 40 other farm workers. And he struggled every day. And he would and he was probably worried about where's his next meal coming from. If he gets sick, he can't, if he gets sick, he doesn't have a job. So he even said, actually I have a story in Discover Nikkei about this. He even said, oh, it wasn't that bad. Camp wasn't that bad. So if you read my story in Discover Nikkei, there's this whole bit about, there is one story, or actually two stories about my father. And I go into explaining that. So to wrap it up, I think even though you see this experience, everyone that we should honor our heroes. There are a lot of different experiences that Japanese Americans had during the war.
Yeah, so, and everyone's kind of touched upon it. You know, this is the story of two families. And, you know, if you're Japanese American, you live in the West Coast, there is a common history that we all share, but within that history, it branches off when we get to the individual stories. So you may see some similarities with people in your family in this film. But again, every story is unique. You know, out of the 120,000 stories, you're going to get 120,000 different stories. You have the same template, but everything deviates. So if we're ever able to make the feature film, I think you're going to see a little more, you're going to see sort of a more rounded experience of the Japanese during the war. And did I answer the question? I tend to ramble, I'm very sorry. And here's Anna. Follow that.
Oh, I think everyone said it really well. Just the complexities of the stories. There are more similarities. Now I'm just going to add my own. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But yeah, that there are so many different stories. And so I think a part of the reason why I even chose to be an actress was because these marginalized stories aren't being told, and because our stories aren't being shown, and in some ways that affects our everyday lives, you know, and how people view us. And yeah, I think shining light on all of that, especially history, which was just even a bonus. So I don't know, and I'm gonna plug Kerwin a little bit. I always joke with him that he's like the Godfather up in the Bay Area. If you're an Asian actor in the Bay, you've probably crossed paths with him. He just is not waiting for doors. He's writing his own doors, his own stories, and creating opportunities. And because him and Ben's dynamic is so good, it's always a really fun time to be on set. So, yeah.
Yeah, from the outtakes, it looks like that you all were having a good time. Unfortunately, we're running down on time, so let me kind of merge 3 or 4 questions into one question for you, Kerwin. And there's a series of questions about what were the challenges in making this film? In particular, was it more challenging filming in the forests or in the city? And specifically, why did you choose When Johnny Comes Marching Home to translate into Japanese and to play that song as a main piece of this?
Yeah, I'll start with the last part of that question. So, and it again harkens back to what these guys said about Americana, and Johnny Comes Marching Home and the Battle Cry of Freedom are these sort of traditional American war songs, these hymns, and they don't necessarily apply to us, and I made them apply to us. And so we got a jazz singer in San Francisco, Saki Kono, and I asked her, well, can you translate this and can you sing it? And so we laid down the track on that. And we felt it very important to weave that our experience is the same as every other veteran's experience. It's a shared experience. You're coming home from war and you don't know what the next thing is. And that was Jimmy's situation. He just didn't know what was going to happen next. And what was the other one?
The difficulties or challenges in making the film, in particular, city or forest, which was more difficult?
The hardest scene for me was the doorstep. And the reason why was because we shot on St. Patrick's Day, and we were up in North Beach, which is this party area, and people were just walking by all night. And what should have been like a 3-hour shoot turned into 6.
Well, the cars.
And the cars, there was more traffic than usual, so it sounds like they're on the Lincoln Highway back in 1940.
Yeah, it was like a parade of endless cars and just like headlights going by, and then like party buses.
Yeah, it was
right.
We shot so many takes on that, and Anna, of course, is like in her pajamas, and he's in a t-shirt, and it's freezing cold out. In Pollock Pines, when we shot in Pollock Pines, the weird thing was it was really raining, but the actors were dry because there's this layer, this canopy of pine trees, so they're underneath the tree and they're not getting wet, but the cameras are just getting soaked. Let me think, what else?
Maybe you could tell the story about when you went into the restaurant or the bar.
God. So obviously Anna's not there, but we rented a place in the foothills, Gold Country, and there's a redneck element there, and we were going to go get some food, so we stopped at a local place, and there's this moment when we walked in the door, there's 6 Japanese, and there's this head turn. They're kind of like, wow, I think we picked the wrong place to eat. But it turned out fine. It could have been. The only one who wasn't uncomfortable was Ben, because he grew up in Fresno. Everybody's in the Bay Area. It's like,
They're my people, man.
yeah.
It was like in the movies where somebody walks into a bar and the jukebox stops and everybody turns their heads. That's what it felt like, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, we could have just been us too.
It could have just been.
It turned out fine, but
It was just them, not me.
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, go ahead.
One
No,
quick
go
thing
ahead.
too. So in the behind the scenes, when all the young guys are shooting, they're not. Those are prop guns. So they're not actually. There's nothing. There's no projectile coming out of the barrel. It's just a flash. So. And there's no kick, so it looks like they were kind of having fun, but they really weren't. It wasn't dangerous in any way, just to clarify. And that's all I'm going to say.
I know there's there's an action, when you see me go like this, that's me just pretending to go like that. It's not actually pushing, there's no kick to it.
Acting.
Yeah, acting.
Acting at its
Acting.
very best, yes. Well, unfortunately, we're nearing our end of time, but I wanted to close by saying that this... Okay, yes, and we have these DVDs, and it says KIKAN, The Homecoming, and they're available at the front, I take it?
Yeah. So we have a giveaway.
Mike?
So there's a giveaway, and if you can answer the question, you got to raise your hand, and then you get the question right. Okay. So where did Jimmy's cousin live? Hands up. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Come on down afterwards, and you can come afterwards, and we have your DVD waiting for you. All right. Well, again, I want to close by saying that just this morning I had breakfast with about 8 or 9 Yonsei and Gosei, and we were talking about the legacy of our Nisei veterans. And I asked them, what is the legacy that the veterans have left for them? And each of them, in their own words, talked about that. But the key element was identity, that these young men helped to shape our identities. Whether you are a Sansei of my generation, whether you're Yonsei, Gosei, it affected all of us. And I would like to say that KIKAN, your film, adds to that identification, adds to that development of identity for the people who see it. So on behalf of the Japanese American National Museum, on behalf of Go for Broke National Education Center, but most importantly, on behalf of the Japanese American community and the American community, thank you for your work. I now will turn it over to Joy.
Can you join me in another round of applause for Mitch and all of our team here? Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. This has been such a wonderful discussion, and we're really grateful to be able to share space in person and see at least half of all of your faces here today. So please join us, and you're welcome to meet folks out in the lobby. And we hope that you also head over to the other side of the plaza and check out art exhibitions. You all have stickers and are welcome to just check in at the front desk and then head on in. Those cover your admission there. So please, especially Stanley Hayami, keep exploring and learning about these stories that we were talking about today. And one more thank you to the Go for Broke National Education Center for their partnership today. We're really lucky to have you all here as well. So Thank you so much, and we hope you have a really great afternoon. Stay safe. Thank you, everyone.